is a war. Not only a war on our family, a war on our mind, a war on our potential. If you knew your history, you would not be beggars. You would insist and you would demand. Instead of begging for what belongs to you, you would gather the strength and take what belongs to you.
This is the Destroy Your Dirt radio show.
You with me? Because I gotta drop this stuff tonight because I'm a truth terrorist. I'm a knowledge gangster. I'm a black history hitman. I'm a lie killer, urban gorilla. I gotta be a roughneck.
Dr. Umar, are you there?
Yes, sir.
All right. Finally, they was trying to shut you down before you even got on, huh?
Yes, sir.
What's up, brother? Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Glad to be with you.
Now, you've been heavily active all over the country, and I think it's pretty hard to catch up with you. You're dropping information everywhere, much-needed information for our people, and I want to commend you for the work that you're doing, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Glad to hear that.
Now, there may be a few people out there living under a rock, that may not be familiar with your work. For those, could you give us a bit about yourself?
Certainly. I'm a nationally certified school psychologist, which means I'm responsible for determining which children have disabilities and subsequent need for special education service. I decide who's retarded, learning disabled, emotionally disturbed, autistic, deaf, blind, speech and language impaired, traumatic brain injury, orthopedic impairment, multiple disabilities, developmental delay, mental giftedness. I'm also a clinician. My doctoral degree is in clinical psychology, so I deal with depression, borderline, bipolar, sadness, suicide, homicide. Also hold degrees in political science and education, former school administrator. Lifelong goal is to build an independent African-centered school, residential for our boys and ultimately for our girls. Former Minister of Education for Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association, largest black organization in modern history. Blood relative Frederick Douglass, greatest black leader of the 19th century.
Indeed. Thank you for that introduction. I'm pretty sure people knew, but I just wanted to make sure people were up on everything. In my conversations with many warrior brothers such as yourself, I always am interested to know how you came to discover the path that you wanted to walk. What spurred you along that path to teach and help guide your people?
I think for me, it may have been somewhat preordained, and I'm not a religious kind of a guy, but when I look at my background and my training, my father having been a drill instructor for the United States Marine Corps, being raised in an African-American Sunni Islamic family, all white universities, there's really nothing in my background that would obviously lead me to the path that I was on. But from the earliest days of my life that I can remember, I had always had a love for my people, the red, black, and green flag, and knowing who I was. We had a mandatory black history class in 4th and 5th grade in North Philadelphia at the Meade Elementary School, public school where I attended. It's possible that maybe that 4th and 5th grade black history class sparked something in me. It's possible that me finding out the very next year in 6th grade at my family reunion in Baltimore that I was related to Frederick Douglass, that may have had something to do with it. Maybe it was that 4th, 5th, and 6th grade year that helped spark, possibly. But outside of that, if that's not the catalyst, then I would have to say that I was born to do the work that I do.
Definitely. Now, let's move on to the topic. But there was something you spoke to. You said you wanted to start a school.
Yes, indeed. Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Pan-African Independence Academy for Young Black Men.
So what's your opinion on the African-centered schools that are around now? Are they, would you say that they're doing the job well, educating the children?
Well, here's the problem. Most African-centered schools are white schools with dashikis and drums on top. And you have to understand that the purpose of educating a black child is in the art of acquiring and maintaining power. Now, if you can show me an African-centered school in America that teaches black children how to acquire and maintain political and economic power, then I would consent that we have some that's done what they're supposed to do. And I'm not trying to slam dunk the schools that we do have. I think many of them are doing the best that they can. But I just want to be crystal clear that I'm not aware of any school in this country, private, public, charter, parochial, black, white, African-centered, bourgeois, whatever you want to call them, that properly educates our children. I believe that there's 6 sciences that all African children need to be taught, and I don't know of any African-centered school that teaches all 6. The first one, in no specific order, is political and military science. If you have not mastered the laws of political, economic, and physical combat, then how exactly do you expect to climb out of the hell in which you are in? You're not going to be able to pray your way out of this. You're not going to be able to libate your way out of this. You're not going to be able to meditate your way, march your way, or vote your way out of this. It's going to take strategy. And most wars are won before they are even fought. So if you're not teaching black children strategy, then you're not preparing them for liberation and revolution. The second, agricultural and agronomical science. If you're not teaching black children how to grow their own food to sustain life, if you can't sustain life, then you haven't been educated. And the average black person, whether he has a PhD or an MD, a PsyD, or a JD, okay, doesn't know how to properly live off of the land. If you can't live off of the land, then you're not educated, according to my definition. And then you have to deal with spiritual science, teaching our children how to connect to the universe and the great I am through spiritual practices and techniques, and get them away from all this religious dogmatism that we have been feeding on for the last 100 years. You have to have spiritual science. Any revolution that we've had that was successful became successful because we included the ancestors in the victory. And unfortunately today, the ancestors do not have a role in many of our major movements, and because of spirituality at the base of these organizations and movements, they ultimately are going to fail because the white man calls on his ancestors. He calls on those devils and crackers all day, every day, okay? But we don't call on our ancestors to help us. This battle is political and it is spiritual at the same time, and we have to use spiritual and political principles at the same time. Up until now, our approach to black struggle has been lopsided, where you have brothers who are totally religious who ain't have no damn political common sense. Or you have brothers who are political who ain't have no spiritual consciousness. You need both. Then we also have to teach our children the science of diet and nutrition. When to eat, what to eat, how to eat, so you're not helping the European kill you with your own conscious consent. Suicide through diet. So we have to deal with the science of diet and nutrition. And then we have to deal with the science of black family maintenance and development. The family is the foundational institution in our community. If that don't work, nothing else does. Children are taught to trust. They're taught to love. They're taught to struggle. They're taught who they are primarily through the family system. See, the only reason why the public school has more influence over our children than we do is because they have a system, but we don't. And then the last one is financial and economic science. We are money illiterate, and we've been money illiterate for 145 years since the 13th Amendment was passed. We don't know anything about wealth. We don't know anything about resources. We don't know anything about collateral, international debt. We don't understand none of that. And the only way we're going to get out of this situation is exactly is to master the political landscape. So those 6 sciences will form the foundation of the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Pan-African Independence Academy for Boys, and ultimately the Anna Douglas and Amy Jakes and Ashwood Garvey Pan-African Independence Academy for Young Women. Let me say this before I forget, because it's extremely important. Mm-hmm. I am going to be putting together a documentary. Excuse me, not a documentary, a shockumentary. I'm going to be putting together a shockumentary entitled The Psychoacademic War Against Black Boys from Grade School to the Graveyard. This, I hope, will be one of the cataclysmic events of the new age, the 2012 to come, that will help wake and resurrect our people up. We know psychologically that when you want to inspire people, you have to do it through music and movies, because music and images are the language of the unconscious. Yeah. So after having watched Waiting for Superman, that Jeffrey Canada garbage, and after having watched other documentaries on education, I have come to the point that our story will not be told unless a Pan-Africanist teaches it. And so what I need for anyone in your listening audience who is willing to be interviewed, nothing extensive, 5 to 10 minute interview, for the purposes of constructing this documentary, I need them to text my cell phone. Text their name and their city and the word documentary to my cell number, 215-989-9858. Again, that's Dr. Umar Johnson's cell, 215-989-9858. Please follow directions. I didn't say Facebook me. I didn't say email me. I said text me. Okay? So, for example, if I were texting myself, I would put Umar Johnson, Philadelphia, documentary. That's all that needs to be in the message. Umar Johnson, Philadelphia, documentary. I need that to be text. And once that is text, then I know that you're willing to be interviewed. And once I meet with my videographer, I will be able to contact folk and let them know exactly how the interviews are going to be handed out.
Wow, that's something I can't wait to see. I know when you say it's a shockumentary, I know it. You know, anytime you're talking about the psychological aspect of our struggles, a lot of people would be very, surprised. And to speak to what you were saying earlier, a lot of people don't realize all these things are connected to our situation and the key to how we escape it. You know, all 6 aspects, they're not separate. You know, that's personally my opinion. Most movements don't have that. Most organizations don't cover all 6. You know,
that's
but
right.
and that's something that definitely is a path that we need to move on. For real. Now,
No, I just wanted to comment. I definitely, dig what you're saying too, Doctor, because, and again, online this discussion came up about, would you leave money for your children and that type of thing. And, again, to each his own. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But I was shocked at some of the responses I got because, I saw a lot of, no, I ain't leaving them nothing. They can make it on their own, and that, that type of mentality. And it's like, wow. I mean, it's no wonder we as a culture are in the situation that we are in because, we're not willing to do for our children and teach them those important steps to even build an empire. You know what I mean? But then how can we teach something that we don't know? So, yeah.
Well, nation building, rather. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, well, nation building, too, yeah.
Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about the mechanics of self-hate and how it works. You've spoken on self-hate a number of times as well. What is your description of self-hate and how it affects us?
Self-hate